Welcome to Fantasy Football Today Dynasty. I am your host, Heath Cummings, joined today once again by our good friend Adam Pfeifer. Adam, everybody who has listened to this show should know where they can find your work, but maybe we got a new listener today. Tell everybody where they can find your work and what you've been up to.
Yeah, always appreciate the invites. Wanted to come on last week, but I apparently Twitter changed their DM system, and I completely missed your message. So that's great. But glad to be here. Yeah, I'm at FTN Fantasy doing a lot of data analysis stuff. I've been doing a lot of film stuff. So right after we get off this game, I'm actually going to go and chart the game from last night. So I've really been enjoying that. I do that for both football and basketball. So it's been a blast. Still, posting takeaways and stuff like that with all the games, and you'll hear some advanced stats and some geeky data today as well. So always love being on, and excited to talk.
On today's show, we are going to talk about post-hype breakout potential. Some of these guys who, and one of the comments from the very beginning, because I think the graphic must have had JJ McCarthy and Bill, and someone in the chat immediately says, if Bill and JJ have positive ends to the season, I'll shave my head.
Listen, I've not had less fun watching, because I have Justin Jefferson, my most important team, and watching JJ McCarthy has been almost like a punishment. It's been, we'll talk about it. It's been so bad.
Well, the point that I want to make about that is this is a dynasty show.
Yes.
I'm mostly thinking with the names we're going to give you that these guys are not going to finish the season well. And this is going to give you an opportunity to buy these players in the offseason, or maybe if you're rebuilding, you want to buy them very cheap right now. But no, these are not necessarily guys that we think are going to be better the rest of this season, but guys who could be better in the long-term future. We'll start with 3 questions for our guest, and it's one of the guys who very easily could have made the list, but I wanted to move him up towards the top of the show. Cam Ward is running a little bit. And I guess my question is, have you seen anything encouraging at all about Cam Ward? If we'd have put him on the post-hype breakouts list, would you have said, yes, he has the chance to be one?
I would. And I actually had this game assigned to me that I was charting yesterday. So I watched a lot of this game. And yeah, you mentioned the mobility, and there was some design runs. It started early in that game too. It was the first drive of the game. They had like an 8-minute drive against Seattle, which was encouraging in itself. And then later on in the game, inside the 10-yard line, they call it designed quarterback power with Cam Ward. And it's originally designed for him to just kind of run to the left, follow a pulling lead blocker. He makes a really decisive, really impressive cut back into the middle, and then pulls remember when Cam Newton used to try to dive and flip over defenders at the goal line? He kind of did that and got upended, but scored. And there's been pretty much almost every week. It's not been the overall grand as you see the numbers there. It's not been a grand, just wow, what a season. But there have been, and it's cliche, but there have been legitimate flashes almost every week with Cam Ward making a ridiculous throw with pressure in his face down the sideline that most of the time Van Jefferson or somebody has dropped. But yeah, I think bottom 5 easily situation around him. That'll happen when you're the first overall pick more often than not. I'm encouraged by Cam Ward. I don't think we're going to get to a point this year, next year, the year following, where he's a consensus top 10, top 12 fantasy quarterback. But I am encouraged overall, just based off what we've seen each week, slowly getting better, more comfortable. And there have been the flash plays as well. And again, we're talking about going to the season with Calvin Ridley as wide receiver 1. He's missed the majority of the season. Then Alec Iomander's missed half the year. It's been brutal. And yet Cam Ward has still shown enough to me where I'm still a believer in him. Again, not as an elite fantasy quarterback, but as somebody that can, live up to somewhat of the hype. Although I guess there really wasn't much hype. I mean, talking about one of the least talked about first overall picks maybe ever.
He has 2 games this season with more than 30 rushing yards. Those are his last 2 games. He's averaged better than 6 yards per attempt in 5 of his last 6 games. He was below 6 yards per attempt in 5 of his first 6 games. Things are trending up. Maybe they'll get him some wide receivers next year. Maybe the offensive system will be better next year. I do think especially if you're like a rebuilder in a super flex league, that your quarterback situation's one of those places you have to be rebuild. He's probably about
Michael Penix teams go try to trade for Cam Ward.
He's about as cheap as you can get a starting quarterback in his rookie season. Second question, are people who've been waiting on Bucky Irving going to be disappointed?
So obviously a dynasty show. Are you talking about starting this week if he's back or just the stretch run? Because I do think somewhat disappointed. Like the guy's missed 2 months. I don't anticipate him this week, assuming he's back, getting 75% of the work, especially with Sean Tucker and Rashad White having impressed, I think. But overall, I think down the stretch, I don't think you'll be disappointed, but I think this week maybe. But again, like that might just depend on the entire offense because Mayfield might try to play through the shoulder sprain. He hasn't been great prior to that. The right side of the offensive line is really banged up. So I don't think we're going to see Bucky be the top 12 running back that he was drafted as down the stretch. But I think he's still going to be like, I don't think he's getting relegated to a second, third string role the next couple weeks. But I think there's a concern.
They talked last week about how you couldn't expect Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving to come back and be full-time players. Chris Godwin played 25 snaps in his first game back. That's kind of about my guess for Bucky Irving. I don't rank a Tampa Bay running back in the top 30 this week. I guess my thought would be this was one of the guys, along with Chase Brown, that you look at for dynasty purposes and say, day 3 pick, had a surprising rookie year. These are often the guys they tell you to sell high on, but we didn't do that with Bucky. We just viewed Bucky as, no, he's different. He's really good, obviously. Now he has an injury-plagued second year. I do think if I was a contender, I might try to sell Bucky off of he's coming back right now because I think there's problems with the offense. There's going to be a ramp-up period for Irving, and I'm not sure he's going to help a contender win a title this year, even though the schedule in the fantasy playoffs is very good. I think there's also a little, if things go bad over the next month, if Tampa Bay just kind of goes to a 3-back committee or a true split with Irving and someone else, his value this coming off season, especially heading up to the NFL draft, probably going to be quite a bit lower than where it was earlier this year. So again, you're not selling low on Bucky. You're selling off the news of him coming back and hoping you can still get close to the value that he held earlier in the year. Third question, and I'm struggling with this myself right now. How high is too high to rank George Pickens in Dynasty?
I'm so upset because earlier this offseason, I was in a league in trade discussions revolving the deal involved. I needed a second quarterback in a 2-quarterback league. I was trying to get like Stafford, and George Pickens was throwing the deal, not thrown in. It wasn't concrete, but it involved me getting Stafford and Pickens. I was giving up Ladd and I think picks or something like that. And I said no. And now it's like, if he gets extended by Dallas, which for some reason is still a question, I don't think it should be. And Jerry Jones gets asked about it. Yeah, Jerry Jones gets.
I would assume
he's about it every single week.
I would assume that he's going to get a franchise tag.
He is so good, and I tweeted this last week after the game. Obviously, we knew there'd be a structural difference between his role in Pittsburgh and Dallas, but it's just completely unlocked him. Like in Dallas or in Pittsburgh, it was vertical go routes, go make a play over somebody, maybe break a tackle and score. His in breaking routes per game or targets per game are up by like 2.5. Right. His yards per game, like everything in terms of in breaking routes, which are very valuable in fantasy, way up. He's still getting those deep shots as well. He's getting end zone targets, and I don't think he's better than CeeDee Lamb, but there's been no discussion who the better player has been this year, especially with all the drops CeeDee Lamb's had. So I don't do dynasty rankings. I'm interested to see where you have Pickens. I would imagine, again, the only thing holding you back potentially from ranking him as high as you really want, outside of the obvious guys like JSN, Jamar Chase, etc., is the contract. And I would like to believe they would extend him. I think Jerry Jones said himself, he literally said that nobody has helped this team win more games this season than George Pickens has.
So let's just start here. George Pickens is 24 years old.
Right.
CeeDee Lamb is 26 years old. Which one would you rather have in Dynasty?
Don't do that to me.
It's hilarious because on Sunday night, I asked Dave, Jamie, and Adam, who was the best wide receiver for fantasy. And your response was their exact response. Just like, we're not going to answer that.
It's
So
just like a laugh and a thought.
I think I have him 16 in the most recent rankings update, which is too low. So I'll just go through the names ahead of him, and you just say Pickens or that guy. I won't get as high as Lamb, so you don't have to answer that question. Pickens or Teterow McMillan.
Pickens.
Pickens or Rashee Rice.
That's a really close one.
Pickens or Neighbors.
Pickens.
Pickens or Ibuka.
Pickens.
Pickens or Nico.
Pickens.
Pickens or Drake London.
Pickens now with the quarterback situation. I have no clue who's playing quarterback for the next 2 years for the Falcons. No clue.
Pickens or Marvin Harrison.
Pickens.
Pickens or Justin Jefferson.
I don't want to talk about JJ McCarthy or Justin Jefferson ever again.
So
I'm still going to lean Jefferson just because I hope next year they get Kyler Murray or somebody. But yeah, I mean, if you tell me that we have no real answer at quarterback, which might be the case, like if you went Pickens, I would not fault you. But it'd be different if Jefferson was struggling and the quarterback play was like decent. He just has no chance this season, like zero chance. So I'm still going to give Jefferson the edge here, but clearly I've chosen Pickens over a handful of players already.
So I have George Pickens at wide receiver 15. It sounds like Adam has him closer to wide receiver 8. Fantastic job.
Irrationally high on his role this season, just as long as he gets extended.
Right. That's going to be the key, is where is he playing football next year and for the next 3 years. Let's take our first break and we'll get to some potential 2026 post-hype breakouts.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
We are back. I am going to try to speak correctly now. I think 6 of the final 7 words I said before the break, I said incorrectly. Not sure what's going on with that, but you said I don't want to talk about JJ McCarthy or Justin Jefferson ever again. And the first name on the list for a potential 2026 post-hype breakout is JJ McCarthy. Thomas is here producing today's show, and 2 weeks ago, he basically told me that JJ McCarthy will never be a starting quarterback in the NFL. There's nothing that
technically
JJ McCarthy,
he is one right now, but is he? Like he's technically well, actually, he might not be this week, but
he is not going to be this week. We don't think. We are projecting Mac Brosmer to start, which I don't think will be better.
I do,
but so listen, we've seen a lot of rookie quarterbacks be really terrible as rookies and improve and start. Some of them improve and become good fantasy quarterbacks. Some of them improve and still at least start for 2 or 3 more years. Has McCarthy really been so bad that you just can't imagine that he bounces back?
The only hope I have is a lot of it's been just he's airmailing throws.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels like that can be fixed. But then you have the other stuff where you watch him. It's like the game. It feels like the game is moving 400 miles per hour for him. And he's just sped up immediately when the ball snapped. And you always have to be careful with stuff like this because the sample size is still pretty small. But it's not a good look when in this system with these weapons, we've seen Joshua Dobbs and Mullins and all these quarterbacks post like 350, 400-yard games. And JJ McCarthy is literally struggling to get to 120. I don't even think he reached 90 yesterday or on Sunday. My concern, it's like, yes, he hasn't played a lot. He obviously missed all last season, but he's been around being able to learn from these veteran quarterbacks for over a year now. The only hope I have really is that stretch down the end of the season where they get some friendly matchups and he can finally just click. But man, it's been just unbelievably bad. And you would think we all thought in the offseason, okay, Jefferson will be fine. He was a good prospect. He was a highly drafted prospect. Kevin O'Connell's made theoretical worst starting quarterbacks produce at a relatively high level, at least in fantasy, and it's been nothing from him.
I think the big difference is that most of those guys have been veterans.
Yes, and that's a good point. I was thinking about that yesterday too. I'm thinking, like, how is Jacoby Brissett doing this for Michael Wilson and Trey McBride? How are these guys have been not only in the league for so long, but around multiple systems. They've seen everything. JJ McCarthy, yes, he's been on the bench learning, but that's totally different. So it is tough when you have that small sample size. But you also expect, like, in the year 2025, for like Tyrod on Sunday comes in, gets us like 220 passing yards. I would love for McCarthy to throw for 200 passing yards.
And the worst part is, I think, like, you talk about him being sped up, and some people have talked about the offensive line play. 2.73 seconds to pressure for JJ McCarthy.
Doesn't help.
That's the second. Patrick Mahomes is the only starter in the NFL who has a longer time to pressure rating. So the pressure is not getting there super fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that he's holding on to the ball too long and not throwing accurately when he does.
Like Justin Jefferson, if you watch him, and trust me, I've watched not every single, but the majority of the plays, because I'm just waiting for him to have that Jefferson game. He is getting so much separation still on these out routes from like 10 to 12 yards. And McCarthy's just throwing it in the sidelines. He's throwing it to the bench. And it's you have to be expected to make these throws.
Right. So let's move on to one that's maybe more positive. Actually, I've got two rookie running backs, and kind of in different situations. One of them still hasn't really gotten much of a chance in Kaleb Johnson. One of them had every opportunity in the world laid at his feet, with Austin Eckler getting hurt, with Brian Robinson Jr. getting traded, and has seemingly lost a majority of the early down work to Chris Rodriguez. For if you were trying to send a second or third round, probably a third round rookie pick for a running back. I mean, this was the greatest running back class ever, allegedly, coming into the year, and it's been pretty good. Kaleb Johnson, Bill, which of those is more likely to be a 2026 post-type breakout?
I would lean Kaleb Johnson, but it's like two completely different scenarios. I could not have been more wrong about Kaleb Johnson. I was high on him in redraft. I was high on him in Dynasty. And I thought the fit with him being able to fit so well in the outside zone scheme with Arthur Smith, I thought it was perfect, literally perfect. And just not it. Hasn't gotten the opportunity really. So I'm still like, at least we've seen Jacory Croskey-Merritt. Not that he's been terrible. He's been solid in a handful of games, but we've seen him get the opportunity, and it's still limited because they don't trust him in pass pro. They don't trust him to catch the football. They have other guys who are better in that. And now Chris Rodriguez, like you mentioned, is taking early down work and goal line work. So it's 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. I remember last time I was on the show, I was pretty adamant, like, this is like the easiest in Dynasty running back to sell. It's the late round, undrafted type running backs who thrust into a role for maybe 1 year. In this case, it wasn't even like a James Robinson situation where it was the full year. It was 4 games.
We I believe, did a podcast, an FFT Dynasty podcast, and told people to take the profit on Bill. So I feel like that was good. You know, we had a question in the chat, speaking of Bill. If you were just playing for next year, would you rather have Bill or Devin Neal?
Probably Devin Neal, because it's not like Kendre Miller's been healthy. He's out for the year. Like, who knows what he's going to look like if he...
We will talk about Kendre Miller in just a minute. I think that the reason it's probably Neal is that there's a chance in the last month of the season that the Saints fall in love with Devin Neal.
Yeah.
He does some good things. And actually, I think both of these teams could be in the market for running backs. Who knows? Alvin Kamara is probably still under contract and has
also
like 75 million in dead money.
We mentioned George Pickens only being 24. Jacory Croskey-Merritt's already 24.
Right.
Like, he was an older prospect who at almost 0 point of his collegiate career offered much in the passing game. And I don't see, it's just so easy for these teams to say, oh, okay, Eckler's career is probably done. We traded Brian Robinson. We don't have a real difference making running back. 3rd round, 2nd round, let's go get somebody.
Saw a couple other things in the chat I wanted to bring up. Please give us your favorite buy low targets, guys, you think could break out in 2026. Put them in the chat. And whether you're watching live or if you're watching 3 days from now, please, please, please do smash the like button, as Gilbert suggests. Would really, really help us out smash the like button. One more running back guy who we thought might have the breakout this year, especially the way they were talking about him. But Braelon Allen, still a guy with a great college pedigree, was slated to get a bigger chance this year, got hurt. Breece Hall is a free agent at the end of this year. I don't know. It seems like the Jets are going to try to keep him. Doesn't seem like Breece Hall wants to stay.
He's definitely getting franchise tagged, right? Like that's going to happen, I feel like.
I can't imagine a team that's still going to be as bad as the Jets are next year putting the franchise tag on a running back, but they are the Jets. Any hope for a Braelon Allen breakout next year?
I mean, the only hope is they do move on from Breece. Braelon Allen was not very good before he went down, but I do think like he's opposite of Bill, still super young. And
21. He's 21 years old.
That's what I'm saying. He is like insanely young. He's his second season in the NFL. He's still only 21.
And just as a reminder, like this guy ran for 3,400 yards in 3 years at Wisconsin.
He's not Jonathan Taylor, obviously, but he fits in that Jonathan Taylor archetype where he's just huge, explosive, can rip off long runs. And like you said, there is that chance where the Jets, who obviously have so many pressing needs, do move on from Breece Hall. And if that happens, they're also a team that, because they have so many pressing needs, they have a lot of picks now, obviously, with the trades. Maybe they say, okay, we don't have the luxury to go and use one of these picks on a running back because we need help at corner. We need help. Obviously, we're going to draft a quarterback. We need help elsewhere. Receiver. So I'd actually be more inclined to give Braelon Allen a look over Jacory, Croskey-Merritt, and Kaleb Johnson's a tough one. I just want to see him get an opportunity. But the problem is Jalen Warren's been so good, and Kenneth Gainwell's been really good for them. So how would you rank those three in terms of like players you would try to send like a middle round pick for?
So in my Dynasty running back rankings, Braelon Allen is he's third right now of the group, but if I was not considering this year at all, he would probably be second at worst.
I would have JCM third.
You'd have Bill third. Okay. Yeah.
I think his, like, we've seen it. Like, I don't expect him to, do we really expect him to, like, he got the opportunity to be the lead back. They didn't want to do it. Do we really expect this time next year he's getting 18 touches per game?
I think the thing with him, and like Cliff Kingsbury, every time somebody brings up his name, just talks about how there's still things like they're pleased with him when he has the ball. It's the rest of the time. But even most recently, he had 10 touches in their last game. He had 11 in the game before that. He had 13 in the game before that. So I think one of the reasons I've still left Bill a little bit higher, it's not the floor. It's that he's getting that many opportunities on a weekly basis. There's nothing Braelon Allen's going to do the last month of the season that could change his outlook. There's probably not much Kaleb Johnson can do the last month that's going to change his outlook.
Listen, they play the Bills this week. If he gets 2 carries, he's probably scoring.
But there is still some, like Bill, there's still a possibility in the last month of the season that he figures out what it is that Cliff Kingsbury would like to see, and all of a sudden gets to play more again because he's more talented than Chris Rodriguez. Chris Rodriguez just does all the things he's supposed to do. Rookie wide receiver, and somebody in the chat, a Bears fan, obviously said Loveland and Monangai. I didn't include those guys, partially because Monangai probably has more hype right now than he had when he was drafted.
Right.
And Loveland's hype has gone nowhere. Like, it's not like it's gone down an iota. I think everybody still thinks next year he's going to be awesome. So I'm kind of looking for some lower end guys you might be able to buy a little bit cheaper. I guess maybe there was a window 2 or 3 weeks ago where you could have done that with Loveland. That's not the case right now. I do think it's the case with first round pick Matthew Golden. This was one of my big whiffs so far from Dynasty drafts. I really thought that he had the ability to be a number 1 wide receiver, and I was fooled into believing that if Matt LaFleur drafted a wide receiver in round 1, he might give him the chance to be a number 1 wide receiver. Those things have not happened at all, but Golden is still a rookie who was a first-round pick in the NFL draft. He still has all those talents and attributes that we liked about him coming into the league. Is this a buy low opportunity, and is he a potential 2026 breakout?
He's probably the most interesting case for it that we talked about so far, just because we're so where would we be valuing Matthew Golden if he went in the 3rd round of the NFL draft? But because Green Bay hasn't spent a first-round pick on a
Mhm.
receiver in forever, I think that played a huge role. But the fact of the matter is, like, we've seen this team, after the Devontae Adams era, they just spread the ball around so much. Their best pass catcher is coming off the ACL. He'll be back. We'll talk about one more Packers wideout later. My problem with buying into Green Bay wide receivers is I think the ceiling, barring a drastic change in offensive philosophy and stuff like that, is like wide receiver 28, 27. Just because, like, are you even going to see a 20% target share? And Golden's been weird because he's been banged up in and out. Some people think he was a little bit banged up, but he also was partially a healthy scratch too last week. Like, it's been weird for him. I think just based off the draft pedigree and the talent, he's interesting. We also have to remember, like, it took like a late college season push for him to really boost his stock at Texas. Like, he wasn't really looked at as the guy for a lot of the college season. So I struggle with Green Bay wide receivers. We'll talk about it in a little bit as well, but he's at least intriguing because of the draft capital, and like the blazing speed and talent is obviously there. And we think the offense is good, but is it good for fantasy for pass catchers not named Tucker Kraft? We haven't really seen that yet.
I'd be pretty happy to send a 2026 second for him. If I could,
especially the 2026 class, which may not be the
Right.
strongest. Who knows? That can change, but I'm perfect. I'm fine with that too.
And then, of course, anytime Adam comes on the show, we have to talk about the Buffalo Bills. And
Do we
no
have
one
to?
has lost more hype in the last few weeks than Keon Coleman, who's just been flat out benched the last 2 weeks. They're choosing to play Gabe Davis over him.
And he's been better.
And he's been better. Coleman, though, still is attached to Josh Allen, was a top 36 pick or something in the NFL draft. Is he a buy low candidate? Is he a potential breakout next year? Or are the Bills and fantasy managers equally done with him?
I think there's one final chance it could happen, and it's if Joe Brady's not there. Not that Joe Brady's a bad OC. He was really bad last week. Don't get me started. But Joe Brady does not know how to utilize Keon Coleman. So Keon Coleman, coming out of college, was this contested catch guy. Good in terms, like, he was better in terms of yak than people realize, but the Bills don't let him do that. 2 seasons in the NFL, not even, almost 2 seasons now. He has run about 530 routes. 212 of them have been against press coverage. That's 40%. And the Bills literally don't move him around. He has 13 total targets from the slot during that span. There's just no creativity with his usage. And the one time they give him the ball is on these sideline back shoulder throws, potential goal line fades. And that's the area he's supposed to be good at. And he hasn't been good at that. So for me, the only hope is, like, the Bills add a new OC and they get Keon Coleman involved, kind of like where Pickens got this massive change in role. Obviously, it's different scheme and more pass-heavy offense in Dallas, but that might be his only hope, is a new scheme where he gets to actually move around the formation. Not like he's literally lining up like how Marvin Harrison Jr. lined up as a rookie, just all the way on the boundary, go catch back shoulder fades, which are the lowest percentage pass in the NFL. Nothing over the middle, no crossing routes. That's his only chance. And even if they do change OCs, like, that's more of a role for Khalil Shakir. You have to think, because they should have traded a 2026 first for Jalen Waddle. They didn't. Whether it's true or not, Brandon Beane, I don't know. But you have to think, after calling around, they probably called the Saints for Olave. They definitely talked to Miami for Waddle. You have to think they address the position, not even a little capacity in the offseason, but they might have to make a splash, because the passing game has been really, really hit or miss. So it's a Hail Mary for Keon Coleman, which have been pretty much all of his targets anyway, or pretty much almost Hail Mary. So
You'd rather acquire Golden than Coleman?
I think so, just because, like, I don't think Keon Coleman's role and his game is conducive to consistent fantasy scoring. Like, his one really good game this year, and maybe his one great game as a pro, was kind of fluky. The Bills were down 18 points in the fourth quarter. Josh Allen threw almost 50 times, which is rare for him nowadays. And the touchdown he had was a deflected pass off Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
Like, I was very excited. I tried to get excited about it, knowing the Bills passed on Ladd McConkey and all these other guys. And then you also have the fact that he's It's not that he's been a healthy scratch because he hasn't been playing well. That's probably part of it. He's missing practices on Fridays. Like, you can't do that.
Right.
So at what point, if he keeps doing it, the Bills say, okay, we're done with him. So
seems like
rough.
that's very, very close. Did you have any other names you wanted to throw in here?
I try to think of some. It is tough right now just because like there have been so many injuries too. Coleman and Golden would have been like on the list in terms of talking points. So I'm glad they were here. And then, Kaleb Johnson, I just swing and a miss for me.
Let's take our second break. I got a few more post-hype breakout candidates when we get back.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Before we get to this list, a couple of names have popped up. One, is John Metchie just already having his post-hype breakout?
Thought about him when I saw his teammate on the list. I don't know. Like, Garrett Wilson is going to be back maybe this year, but obviously he'll be back next year.
Well, I think that the thing is, like, Metchie, 3 catches, 45 yards and a touchdown 2 weeks ago, 6 catches, 65 yards and a touchdown this week. If Wilson doesn't come back and Metchie performs as the team's number one for the rest of the way, I think at the very least he probably goes into next year, hopefully with a new quarterback, as either the number, I don't know what his contract situation is. He may be a free agent at the end of this year, but as either the number 2 for this offense or getting a chance to go get a job somewhere else. So this is year 4 for John Metchie. So he'll be a restricted free agent at the end of this year.
Yeah, it's tough, but I'm rooting for him. Like, I've been impressed in the last couple weeks, and the rest of the season, if they don't have Garrett Wilson, I was a massive, massive A.D. Mitchell fan. He gets open as well as anybody. He just doesn't do anything when he gets open. He drops the ball. He sometimes runs the wrong route. It's just like,
so he's on the list also. And I think like the thing that's been overlooked, because Metchie's been the one that's productive in those 2 games. Mitchell has more targets. He has 13 targets in his last 2 games.
He's so good at getting open. He always has been.
And they're very valuable targets. Do you have any hope that he is actually the type of guy that we at least know he has an elite skill set?
Yes.
I'm still
holding out hope for A.D. Mitchell.
So you still have, like, I still have both these guys on a couple of benches. I'm going to have to start John Metchie in a league this week, which you don't feel great about, but maybe a number 3 wide receiver now. I think both these guys worthy of roster spots, but I'm assuming you would still rather roster Keon Coleman than either.
For now, yeah.
I think the one exception might be is if you like are desperate for a flex start this week and you've got Coleman and you got Metchie. I mean, you got to start Metchie over Coleman at this point.
Well, one player is going to be active on Sunday.
I think
Keon will probably be active.
I think Keon's
the short week didn't help them, but
right. So hopefully he goes to practice and he stays awake and everything's okay. We mentioned it earlier with Devin Neal. Kendre Miller was really starting to show this year that he might be that guy. He was taking rushing work away from Alvin Kamara when Alvin Kamara was healthy. Another guy that has the talent. It's just injuries and other things, and Alvin Kamara have gotten in the way. Is Miller someone? I mean, obviously, if you have an IR spot, it's easy to just hold on to him. But when we get to February or March, those guys are going to come out of the IR spots. We're going to have to make cuts for rookie drafts. Is Miller someone you'd really like to hold on to? Is he someone you might send a 3rd round pick for?
Yeah, he was really slowly. I don't even want to say slowly. He was starting to creep towards standalone value before he went down. Like, he was getting like 8 to 10 carries a lot of these games, and he was pretty efficient. I thought when he got drafted, he was a perfect fit for this offense, and then kept missing time, and Dennis Allen kept throwing shades at him in press conferences, and Dennis Allen's not there anymore, so maybe that's good for him in itself. It honestly could depend on what Devin Neal does these final couple weeks. I don't anticipate there's much of a reason for Kamara to come back, but he always wants to, and he always does. So, like, if Kamara sits out these last couple games in a lost season for the Saints, and Devin Neal is really, really impressive, then that can change things. But either way, I'm still definitely holding on to Kendre Miller. I wouldn't be really opposed to offering a 2026 third for him just in case, because we've kind of been waiting for him for a couple of years now, anticipating the end of Alvin Kamara. Maybe that's here. But it'll be interesting to see what Devin Neal does these next couple of weeks if he's given the opportunity if Kamara sits out.
And then Trey Benson, I have been
Speaking of waiting,
just desperately waiting because I think there's such an opportunity if he can get healthy
and the other running backs keep getting hurt
to prove that I don't think when he's 100%, those other running backs will matter all that much. I think.
I know, but I'm saying
he
could get like 90% of the work with the way the other running backs look right now.
And I think if he proves that in the last month of the season, he could be their starter going into next year. I think Trey Benson's been a very good running back when given opportunities so far in the NFL. It's just that he can't get over this injury, and I think we need him to show it before the end of this year so Arizona is comfortable going into next year with him as their starting running back.
Yeah, I've redraft leagues that somebody dropped him like 4 weeks ago, and I just stashed him. I'm waiting. The schedules, there's a couple of friendly matchups there. And here's the other thing. This offense is better than it was when he got hurt.
Right.
So that helps him. They're also throwing 50 times per game, so hopefully he doesn't come off the field on third downs because he could catch like 3-4 passes a game on top of that. And I don't think anybody's taking him off the field on early downs, goal line work. Obviously, DeMarcado went down 2 weeks ago. Bam Knight left on Sunday. It's just like we're talking about backup running backs to start with, but they keep getting hurt. So Trey Benson, please, I'm glad he didn't play last week. I want to, as soon as I see him get a full practice, I'm going to be really excited.
Do you share my opinion that he could enter next year as Arizona's starting running back?
Yes.
Okay. So that's probably, in terms of my rankings, even with the fact that he hasn't played in several weeks, Benson's probably the guy that I'm most likely to go after on this list. I think he could
100%.
be someone who helps you this year, and maybe
also still he was a second round pick, like
maybe the best guy on this list for 2026 if he can get healthy and he can show what I think he has. He's still just 23 years old. He was a round 3 pick. Now maybe a regime change coming there in Arizona. So maybe they want to get their own running back, but I think a really good opportunity for Trey Benson. He's just got to get healthy. We talked about Adonai Mitchell. You hinted about Christian Watson. He just played over 90% or ran over 90% of the routes. Looked like the Packers' number 1 wide receiver. Was this just a case of it's 1 week and next week somebody else is the number 1 wide receiver?
Christian Watson's easily the most intriguing wide receiver for me because he's shown the highest ceiling for fantasy. We've seen him with explosive plays, with red zone targets. We saw the Giants game where he was really impressive. He's the most intriguing. The problem is right there on the screen. 4.8 targets per game, which obviously he hasn't played a ton, but like he has not reached even an 18% target share in a season in his career. There's obvious injury concerns. The Packers right now, I think 7th in neutral script rush rate. They are perfectly content. And I know Jordan Love has the shoulder sprain on his left shoulder, but they've kind of been like this for a couple weeks now where they don't really want him throwing the ball 35 times. They're cool with running the football with Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson and playing defense. And if this was a situation where Watson was getting 8 to 10 targets per game, a 25% target share, cool, they can throw the ball 26 times, 27 times. But this is probably the most spread out passing offense in the NFL, and it has been for 2 years now. And, oh, by the way, Jaden Reed is going to come back. And a lot of those scheme targets, the screen, stuff like that Matt LaFleur does like to do, especially with Tucker Kraft out, I would imagine they go to Jaden Reed. So let me ask you this, Heath. I tell you right now, Jaden Reed's playing on Thursday, and he's maybe not 100%, but whatever. Say he's in this hypothetical, everything's perfect world. Jaden Reed's active. Him and Christian Watson active. They both play 100% of snaps. The rest of the year, who has more targets?
Well, there's no chance that they're playing 100% of the snaps.
Oh, of course.
I would guess Jaden Reed would have more targets.
It's
guess
so tough because Watson's still, I think, the most intriguing.
I mean, you might have Watson, Reed, Dobbs, Golden, Wicks, all healthy.
And they gave Savion Williams a couple of those kind of like jet sweep, touch passes too.
Yeah,
So it's like
I probably have the least amount of hope for Christian Watson of the guys we've talked about, and he
I have
might
hope.
be the.
I have hope in him. It's just I don't have hope that it's gonna. Like I said with Golden, like the ceiling might be wide receiver 28 because he gets 5.2 targets per game.
A couple names from the chat. Daryl asked about or said Brian Thomas Jr. is his favorite bounce back player. I talk every week on this show about how I'm not lowering Brian Thomas Jr. as much as everybody else seemingly is. He's still a top 15 dynasty wide receiver for me. Do you want to throw any water on this optimism, or are you just staying optimistic that next year will be better?
You have him ahead of Pickens?
Right now I have them 14 and 15.
Yeah, I'd rather have Pickens.
Yeah.
I'm also clearly just really high on him.
Well, a lot of people have Thomas, I think, outside of the top 20 now. So, like,
who do you have like in between Thomas and 20th that people would probably have Thomas lower than?
So
Harrison,
Ladd, Rome.
That's an interesting one because Rome weeks 1 through 4 it might not have been a contest, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh,
Travis Hunter, Jordan Addison, Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, I would easily rather have Tom. Waddle's interesting.
Yeah, but so that's kind of the range he's in.
Yeah,
I think he's a great bounce back candidate, and his value has fallen. I'm not sure he's quite a post hype breakout, but yes, that makes perfect sense. And then somebody asked about Keaton Mitchell, who I'm not sure if he ever had enough hype in the first place to qualify for this show, but I love Keaton Mitchell. He's one of my favorite, not fantasy relevant fantasy running backs in the NFL. I just assume Derrick Henry's probably going to be back next year and probably still going to be getting 18 touches a game.
Didn't they extend Derrick Henry, or am I imagining things?
That would make sense, although it could be that it's just Derrick Henry contract. I'm going to pull that up right now because we had another question in the chat is whether he would still be their RB1 for next year. I say yes.
Thomas says they did. So
yeah, he is definitely under contract. So for 26 and 27.
Yeah.
So
Keaton Mitchell, it's always interesting with backup running backs. And like for a lot of the time, he's been either hurt or the backup to Justice Hill. But especially when it's a player as explosive as him, you always have to be careful because they get 4 touches a game, but the one touch is a 35-yard run. It's like, oh, why don't they give him the ball? He's way better than this guy. Then it's like, oh, well, that other guy's getting 22 touches up the middle. So obviously, but Keaton Mitchell is interesting because, again, it's small sample, but every time he touches the ball, it's like he looks like he could just score every play.
He is somebody I'm probably not giving up a draft pick for, but I definitely want to make sure he's rostered, and I am trying to hold him through rookie drafts. I think there's a good chance he goes into next year as the direct handcuff to Henry, who's going to be like 33 or 4 at that point, and could be the lottery ticket you find in week 4 because of an injury. That's going to do it for today's show. Adam, tell everybody again one more time where they can find your work.
Yeah, ftnfantasy.com. Again, right after we get off this, I'm going to go watch yesterday's game between Carolina and San Fran, and I'm doing the run game, so that means I'm going to be watching McCaffrey get 30 touches. And, I'm doing a lot of that stuff at FTN Fantasy, a lot of charting, a lot of film watching, which I've loved, a lot of advanced data, which have been kind of my passions the last couple of years, more than a couple of years, I should say. And, appreciate the time as always, and hopefully everybody has a great holiday this week. Enjoy some football.
Thank you for being here, Adam. Thank you for Schaefer for making everything work. Thank you to everybody who was active in the chat. Again, if you could smash that like button for us, it would really help us out. And leave in the chat still your favorite post-hype breakout candidates. We'll check in on those later. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.